Welcome to the deep dive. You've sent us a really interesting set of sources today, mainly articles contributed over at CoinMarketCap, all looking at the crypto scene on June 13th, 2025.
That's right. It's just a snapshot, one day. But, even in that single day, the reports show these cross currents shaping things.
Yeah, exactly. So our plan is pretty straightforward. We're going to unpack these sources you sent, pull out the key bits of info, and try to understand what the narrative was on that specific day, at least according to these reports.
And what jumps out right away, I think, is this contrast you mentioned.
Totally. You've got reports of market drama, volatility, and then right alongside it, news about fundamental adoption moves.
It really does seem like a day that captured the multiple layers of what's happening in crypto right now based on these articles.
Okay, so let's dive in. Where most people probably look first, the market itself. What was the general vibe reported on June 13th regarding prices?
Well, the sources were definitely pointing towards losses pretty much across the board for the big names. One report specifically mentioned that by 3:00 p.m. Korean time, things were looking pretty red.
Okay. And did they give specifics for Bitcoin and Ethereum?
They did. Bitcoin, BTC, one source had it down 3.32%, which put it around, $104,214 at that moment.
Right.
And Ethereum ETH actually took a much bigger hit, according to the reports, down 9.18%.
Ouch. Okay, so pretty serious downward moves for the top two. Was anything kind of bucking that trend? Anything going up?
Yeah, there's one standout mentioned, AB. It was reportedly up 6.43%.
Ah, interesting.
So, yeah, while the overall picture reported was negative, it wasn't, universal. Some things were moving differently.
Now, these reports didn't just list the price drops. They actually pointed to a specific cause, didn't they? One source even called it a massive cryptocurrency market crash. What did they say was behind it?
They did. The articles we're looking at, they directly linked that downturn, that volatility, to military action by Israel.
Okay.
They stated that the geopolitical tensions resulting from that were causing, and I'm quoting here, massive liquidations and market volatility.
Right. And just to be clear, we're relaying what these specific sources reported as the link they saw.
Exactly. We're just reporting on the reports themselves. They drew a direct line from those geopolitical events to the market action.
And that reported connection seemed to show up in the liquidation numbers, too. What kind of figures were being thrown around in the sources?
The numbers were pretty stark, actually. Over $1 billion with a B in total crypto liquidations reported in just 24 hours.
Wow.
And what's really telling, according to these sources, is where most of it came from. $943 million of that billion was reportedly from long positions.
So people betting the price would go up, nearly $1 billion of those bets got wiped out.
That's the implication, yeah. When you have leveraged longs people borrowing to amplify their bets on price increases and the price drops fast.
They get liquidated,
Yeah.
forced selling.
Exactly. Their positions are closed automatically to cover the borrowed funds. And that forced selling just pushes the price down even more. It's like a cascade.
Makes sense.
The sources even put in a warning like, big waves ahead, volatility alert. It really underscores how, according to these reports, external real-world events were having a very direct, very powerful impact on the market mechanics, especially the leverage side.
Okay, so that's one major theme from the June 13th reports. A market reacting, maybe overreacting to global events, leading to big volatility, big liquidations.
Right.
But like we said at the start, you dig into these same sources and there's a completely different story unfolding at the same time. What did you see on the adoption front? Institutional moves.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. A huge piece of news reported was about Shopify.
The e-commerce giant, yeah.
Exactly. The sources said Shopify is enabling USDC payments globally.
Okay, that's big. And using a specific network.
Yes, that's key. They're doing it on Coinbase's Base network.
Right, the layer 2.
And the significance highlighted in the reports is multifold. You've got a massive global platform.
Shopify.
Integrating a major stablecoin, USDC, which is pegged to the dollar.
Okay.
And doing it on a layer 2 like Base, which is designed to be faster and cheaper than using, say, the main Ethereum network directly.
So making crypto payments potentially practical for everyday online shopping worldwide.
That's the idea, yeah. It's reported as a really concrete step connecting crypto infrastructure with actual mainstream commerce.
That feels much more foundational, less about daily price swings. Was there anything else pointing towards bigger players getting involved?
There was. News out of Japan, too. A company there, based in Japan, was reported to have officially bought Bitcoin.
adding it to their balance sheet.
Seems like it. Joining that growing list of corporations saying, okay, we're holding some Bitcoin now. And again, the report frames this as another instance of corporate adoption happening sort of independently of that market turmoil.
Okay. And then there's the really big name in traditional finance that popped up in these reports, BlackRock. What was the news there?
Yeah, BlackRock. The sources describe them, as the world's largest asset manager. And the report was about their vision for crypto.
A bold vision, I think the source called it.
That's the phrase used. A bold $50 crypto AUM vision by 2030.
$50 billion in AUM, assets under management, just for crypto by 2030.
Correct. AUM is just the total value of all the assets they manage for their clients. So for a massive player like BlackRock to reportedly set a target like $50 billion specifically for crypto assets.
It says something.
It really does. As the articles suggest, it signals a very long-term, very strategic view. It implies they expect huge amounts of institutional money to flow into crypto over the next, 5, 6 years. It's definitely a forward-looking goal, not something based on yesterday's price action.
Okay, fascinating. So reports show this market vulnerability, right? Tied to geopolitical stuff leading to crashes, liquidation.
Yeah.
But on the exact same day, reports are talking about Shopify going global with USDC on base, a Japanese firm buying Bitcoin, BlackRock aiming for $50 billion in crypto AUM.
Quite the mix.
Before we tie it all together, were there any specific crypto projects getting attention in these reports mentioned as trending?
Yes, a few were highlighted. BNB got a mention for a reported 275% surge.
Whoa, that's a huge reported jump for BNB.
Yeah, indicating some serious momentum for that specific asset, according to the source. Polkadot was also mentioned as trending, suggesting it was having a good day too, report-wise.
Okay.
And Blockdad got a specific shout-out. The source is focused on its X1 miner app.
What about it?
They reported it was driving mass adoption in 150-plus countries and that they were getting ready for a go-live event. The emphasis seemed to be on making mining easier, more accessible, and its reported global reach already.
Got it. So individual project stories bubbling up too. Okay, let's try to synthesize this. Based only on these June 13th reports you shared, we've got a market reportedly getting slammed by external events, geopolitical tensions, cited as the cause for crashes and massive liquidations.
Right.
Simultaneously, reports detail major global players, Shopify, BlackRock, plus corporate buying in Japan making significant long-term moves into the space. Integration, investment goals.
Exactly.
So what does this clash, this juxtaposition reported on the same day, suggest about the crypto market's condition or maybe its future path?
Well, what these sources, taken together, seem to show is a market operating on maybe two different frequencies at once.
Okay.
On one frequency, you have the highly volatile speculative layer. It's sensitive to macro news, global events, sentiment,
Right.
much like other risk-on assets, right? The reported reaction to the geopolitical news, the liquidations, that clearly shows that short-term vulnerability.
Yeah, it's definitely a reminder from these sources that even if the tech is decentralized, the market isn't totally insulated from the world.
Not at all. But then, these same sources show this other frequency, maybe running deeper. The reported moves by Shopify, the Japanese company, BlackRock, these aren't knee-jerk reactions to the day's headlines.
No, they sound strategic, long-term.
Exactly. They're about building infrastructure, managing corporate funds, allocating serious capital over years. These seem like decisions made by major economic players looking way down the road.
So you've got the daily waves, the turbulence from these external pull factors reported in the news. But underneath, there's this steady push reported, integration, adoption, institutional planning happening almost regardless.
That's a good way to put it. The sources paint a picture where the surface might be choppy because of storms passing through, but underneath there are these strong currents of foundational work and strategic investment by really big entities.
And that push seems driven by something other than just the daily price, based on these reports. A longer-term belief or strategy.
It certainly seems that way from the articles. It suggests that to really understand the crypto space, at least as reported here, you have to watch both things. How it reacts, sometimes violently, to immediate shocks.
Right.
And also track this slower, steadier, but maybe more powerful reported trend of getting woven into the bigger economic fabric by major players.
It's definitely a more complex picture than just looking at a price chart for the day. It feels like these reports capture that tension well for every story of market pain linked to an external event.
There's another story. often reported the same day, about someone building the rails or committing the capital that could shape where it all goes next.
Really interesting to see that laid out so clearly in the reports from just one day. Thanks for bringing these sources to us for this deep dive.
No problem. It's a fascinating set of reports to go through.
So here's something to maybe mull over, based purely on what these sources reported for June 13th. You see this significant market volatility reportedly triggered by external events right alongside these major strategic moves towards adoption and huge investment targets from global players. What does that dynamic coexistence tell you about the nature of this crypto market as reported? Is it fundamentally defined by those quick, sharp reactions, or is that underlying trend of integration and institutional buy-in the bigger story in the long run?
That's the core question these reports leave you with, isn't it?
Definitely something to think about. We really appreciate you sharing these reports with us today.